I'm supposed to enjoy reading. I'm supposed to read books that make me feel happy and make me excited to pick the book back up again. And this one was doing the complete opposite. It made me want to become illiterate. Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name's Bella. I make videos about books and things that make me happy or things that make me cry, which apparently I do a lot of. But for today, I have some very interesting things to talk to you guys about. I want to go through all of the books that I've DNF'd in 2022. Or I think it's like from the span of 2021 to 2022. I'm not the biggest fan of DNFing books, which is not finishing books that you start because you're either not vibing with the writing style, you don't like the story itself, you're bored, you're not connecting with anything at all, so you're just like, okay, I'm just going to give up on this book. I'm not a big fan of doing that because I just want to give books a proper chance, you know what I mean? And sometimes I've DNF'd books and then I've picked them back up and they end up being amazing books. Like maybe not 5 stars, but definitely like 4-star book material. So I'm always afraid that when I DNF a book, I'm giving up on a potential new favorite read. So I thought that I would go through all of the books that I've recently DNF'd and I would let you guys pick which ones I should give a second chance before I ultimately give up on them forever. Basically, no pressure, but my fate is in your hands. And I hope you choose wisely because we have a little bit over 10 books in this list. Again, I'm not a big DNF'er. Apparently I have 12 DNF'd books on my bookshelf on Notion. The very first book on this list is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, written by Axie O. And this one, this one was actually a Patreon buddy read. So it was extremely hard for me to DNF because, you know, so many people were reading it with me and I was like, okay, if I DNF this, what am I going to do? So I really tried to read this book and I tried my hardest to just push through the boring parts and the characters that had no personality. I tried to push through all of that and I just couldn't. So I ultimately had to DNF, and I think this one is like a very hard DNF. No matter what anybody says, I'm never going to give this book a second chance, just because I think I made it like 40% of the way through and I just could not take it. I was bored out of my mind. The thing is, I was so blinded by the beauty of this cover, I didn't even think of the possibility that it could be a bad book. So yeah, it was like double disappointment. And I just hated it. The next one is Poison for Breakfast, written by Lemony Snicket. I have never read a Lemony Snicket book, I believe. I could be wrong about that. But I've never read, that I remember, a Lemony Snicket book. And this one just randomly popped up on my feed and it looked really interesting. So I was like, okay, let's try it. Let's see what it's about. To be honest, I didn't give this book a proper chance. I read like the first 5 chapters and I don't know, maybe it was just my mood or what I was going through life at that moment, but I could not care less about that book. So 5 chapters in, I was just like, I don't care. I don't want to care. Let me just pretend I never read this. This next one hurts because it's written by Uncle Rick and I love Rick Riordan. You know, I love Percy Jackson. I love Heroes of Olympus. So it kind of hurt that I had to DNF The Cursed Carnival and Other Calamities. This is not exclusively written by Rick Riordan because it is a collection of some authors that write under the Rick Riordan Publishing Company. I'm not sure what the name is, but yeah, it's like this collection of authors and they all have short stories and it's all been collected into this one book that was sent to me by Disney Book Group. So it was like this huge deal for me. And I was devastated when I had to DNF it because I was just not interested. I didn't like the writing style of some of the authors. I didn't care for the stories. These stories ultimately are connected to like the main books that these people write. So if you don't have some of the context of these books, you're not really going to understand what's going on. Or maybe you will if you just keep reading, but I did not keep reading. So there's that. The next book is Catherine House, written by Elizabeth Thomas. And I actually made it really far into this book because I was buddy reading it with a friend and we were just pushing through. I think we made it like 60% of the way through, but we were so bored and confused and we didn't care to understand what was going on. The characters were so boring. They were supposed to be like morally gray, but they just ended up being extremely dull and boring, and if there's one thing I cannot forgive is boring characters. So yeah, I also DNF'd Catherine House. If you ask me what this was about, I could not tell you. I literally blocked that out of my memory. This next one might come as a surprise to some of you, and it might shock some, it might anger some people because so many of you have actually recommended this book to me, but I couldn't make it past page 50. And it is Jade City, written by Fonda Lee. Yes, read 50 pages, could not get into the story. I think it was too complicated for me. And I was just like, nah, I'm not going to be doing this right now. We are not going to go through this. So I've DNF'd it. I tried 3 different times to read this and I just could not. So yeah, Jade City. I know a lot of you are going to be mad at me for doing that because Jade City is such a popular book on BookTube, but apparently not for me. The next book we have is The Final Girl Support Group, written by Grady Hendrix. I made it like 50% of the way through again. Like, I really struggle DNFing books, but I think I've gotten a lot better like recently, because I used to be like, okay, I started this book, I need to finish it. Even though I know it's going to be a 2-star, I need to finish this book because, you know, I need to finish everything that I start. But that is a very unhealthy mindset, and I'm so happy that I worked on it. And now I wouldn't say it's easy to DNF books, but it's definitely a lot easier than it used to be. So The Final Girl Support Group, I listened, because I did read this on audiobook, I listened to 50% of it and it was so boring. Like, the premise sounds so promising and so interesting, but the writing itself and the execution, where was it? I did not see it. A Spindle, Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. Honestly, nothing to tell you about this book. It's so short. I read maybe 20 pages and I was like, this is not for me. I'm sorry, but we're moving on. And we're just gonna pretend that it never happened. Then we have You, written by Carolyn Kepnes? You. I have seen all 3 seasons of this on Netflix, so I thought that I would love the book, and I think I still could, but I just picked it up at a time where I was like really busy with life, so I didn't really give it my full attention, and I don't know, I just kind of gave up on it because I was like, I already know the story. Why do I want to do it on book form? Maybe I can try the audiobook because I have heard that it's narrated by the actor that does the main character in the series. So maybe that'll entice me to continue. But for now, I've just DNF'd it because I didn't see the point in reading about a story that I already knew. Then we have The Sunbearer Trials, which is written by Aiden Thomas. This is a new release, actually. It came out recently in October. And this was another Patreon buddy read. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the writing or the way that the characters were written or the story itself, like the premise. Just none of it sounded exciting to me all of a sudden. I used to be really excited for this book, but when it finally came out, there was just like this switch inside of me that turned off, and I was like, no, I don't want to read this, and I don't want to force myself to do this. So yeah, 40 pages in, I DNF'd this because I did not want to put myself through a book that I knew I was not going to enjoy. War Storm, written by Victoria Avior. This is the 4th and final book in the Red Queen Quartet, and I was maybe like 100 pages through. I was already not enjoying the series itself, but since I had bought the box set, I was like, I need to force myself to read this. I need, you know, to make my money mean something because I already spent so much money on this. I might as well read it. So I read the 3rd book. I really did not enjoy it, but I was like, okay, I only have 1 more book left. Let's get it over with. But in the middle of it, I was just suffering so much, and that's when I kind of like realized that I'm supposed to enjoy reading. I'm supposed to read books that make me feel happy and make me excited to pick the book back up again, and this one was doing the complete opposite. It made me want to become illiterate. So I decided, I think it's time to put this book down and just give up on it, because if you don't give up on this book, I'm going to give up on myself. It was a very eye-opening moment for me when I DNF'd Warstorm. Then we have a Spanish classic, which is Cien Años de Soledad, escrito por Gabriel García Márquez. I tried so hard to read this book, and I think I might have to try again just because of this one reading challenge that I really want to do, and that is one of the books that I have to read for it. But when I tell you that I've tried to read this book over 4 times and I never make it past page 100 because the writing, at least the Spanish version of it, which is the original version, is so hard for me to understand because it uses so many words that I don't understand, and it just makes it a very dense type of read for me. I don't like feeling stupid when I read books, and I think this is one of the books that has made me realize just how small my brain is. And I didn't like that realization, so I kind of just gave up on it. But maybe now that I've grown, maybe now that I've read a bit more classic literature, maybe I should give it another try. But I am completely and utterly intimidated by this book. Sorry for the interruption, but I just realized I'm literally editing this right now, and I realized that I forgot to mention a pretty important book that I've DNF'd. Even though I didn't DNF this in 2021 or even 2022, it's probably the very first book I have ever DNF'd in my life, and my one wish is that you guys don't take this opportunity to make me read this book, because I don't want to read it, but I do want to mention it. So please, like, if I see one comment telling me to read this book, I'm going to deactivate. But so it's not Eclipse. Okay, it's not Eclipse, but I did DNF Breaking Dawn, which is the 4th and final book in the Twilight Saga. I don't know where my Breaking Dawn copy is. It's here somewhere, but I'm too lazy to look for it, so let's just pretend that this is Breaking Dawn. Yeah, that's a truth that I've never talked about. I never finished the Twilight Saga. I remember that when I first read the books, I was just starting my reader journey, so I was like really loving the books. But the more that I read, the more that I realized maybe these books aren't really what I'm after. I was maybe 200 or 300 pages into Breaking Dawn when I realized that I was just no longer going to continue reading Breaking Dawn. And I think that was like my very first experience not finishing a book that I started. So I just didn't want this video to end without you guys knowing my dirty little secret. And now that we do, let's get back to the video. Kafka on the Shore, written by Haruki Murakami. I've always wanted to know what all the fuzz was about with this author, because so many people talk about loving him. They're always recommending books by him and talking about his talent and his legacy, and I've always wanted to get it, but I don't. I've read Norwegian Wood, absolutely hated it, so I tried Kafka on the Shore, which apparently is one of his most famous works, and I couldn't get past the one very explicit animal torture and killing scene, which apparently nobody remembers, but it is a very explicit and very descriptive and very long scene where one of the characters is just torturing cats. And I don't know why nobody talks about it, but I just could not get through that scene. And I wasn't enjoying the book either, so I was like, okay, this is the final straw. I think I'm finally going to give up on Haruki Murakami. But through the years, I've still heard so many people say that Kafka on the Shore is an amazing book, and just Haruki Murakami in general is fantastic, and everybody should read this author. So I don't know if I should just like pretend that scene doesn't exist and keep reading the book, or try another book by Haruki Murakami. I just don't know. Those are all of the books that I have DNF'd in recent years, 2021 to 2022. Hopefully that list doesn't keep growing. Like, it's never my intention when starting a book to DNF it, because obviously I start a book with expectations of finding a story that I'll connect to, and finding a story that I'll love, finding a story that I'll hopefully recommend to other people, but sometimes that isn't always the case. Hopefully it won't happen too many times, but I just thought that I would share with you guys some of the books that I've DNF'd, or all of the books that I've DNF'd that I remember, so you can tell me which ones do you think I should give a second chance, which ones do you think I might actually enjoy if I just keep reading past the point where I stopped. So let me know in the comments below which books you think deserve a second chance and which books should not be on this list. So let me know in the comments below. I cannot wait to see your response, your suggestions, your recommendations. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on the little cute notification bell. It helps this channel stay alive, so I would really appreciate it. And if you're still here, leave this emoji in the comments below next to your suggestion of which book I should give a second chance to, so that I know that you've stayed until the end and you're a true simper. And once again, thank you so much for watching. I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey Jimmy, you nice. Keep going.